Start this next session to create the buttons by opening up Fusion, and you should find that you're in the blank work area. You go onto the data panel, which is where we saved our work, and you should have a folder called admin project, which if you double click on, you'll be able to locate your progress so far. For mine, you can see that I've created a series of folders and I've named them, which just makes it a little bit easier to navigate in future. So if I go into Apple products, and I go down to Y9 lesson 1 and double click to load up the model, you should be able to see the progress that we made so far. So as a reminder, we created our original sketch, entered the dimensions, we then extruded, added a round to the corners or a fillet to the corners, to the bottom edge, and then we chamfered the top edge. So I'm going to close the data panel just to move it out of the way. And I want to work on the top surface now to create the buttons. Now down here we have a timeline of the jobs that we've done so far. This is useful if we ever have to go back and edit one of the features from earlier on. So if I want to edit one of the chamfers, I can right click and edit the feature to enter a different amount. Now we're going to be working on the top surface, so we need to first of all select that top surface. You know when it's highlighted because it will be in blue, and you can either go up to the top to create a sketch, click on create and create sketch, or when highlighted you can right click on your mouse and create sketch. That should flip you to a bird's eye view or a top view, and this is the easiest face or view to work from. So if it doesn't flip and you're still on the home view, you can then click on the top. Now I'm going to create the buttons, and in order to do this I've measured the Apple TV remote, and I can see that the center of the first, or the top left button, will be 47mm from the outside edge. So I'm going to mark that out first by using the line command, and I'm going to touch the outside edge and I'm going to click and drag a line, and as long as it's straight I can let go of the mouse and enter 47. And by pressing return it drops a line, and I can then select the line so it goes blue and press X. This turns it into a construction line, so it just helps with marking out our actual shapes that we're going to use. Now not only is it 47 from the top, but it's 11 from the side. So this time, rather than draw a line, I'm going to use a dimension tool, and this allows me to click between two lines and it enables me to see what the dimension is. So here I'm going to click on the outside line and the line here, and I can see that currently it's 13.5mm. Now I want that to be 11, so I'm going to enter 11 and press return, and it should jump our original line 11mm from the edge. So now I know that this central point here is going to be the center point for our first circle, or for the first button. Now again, up here these are shortcuts, or they're icons for particular buttons. They're not always the ones that we assume them to be. So here we have a 2-point rectangle, and we quite often use different rectangle options here, so bear that in mind. But we are going to use a center diameter circle. So from here I'm going to hover over the end point, click and drag and let go of the mouse and enter 12mm for my first button, press return. Now rather than copying and pasting, I'm going to select the line and I'm going to use a feature called rectangular pattern. Now this will allow us to duplicate our sketch in rows or columns, and we can enter the distance but also the amount of circles that we're going to do as well. So I'm going to start to drag circles across, and by default it does 3. Now we need to move it across by -16, and if I press tab I can change it just to 2 buttons going across the top. Now before pressing enter to confirm, I'm going to also drag the buttons down until my middle circles reach the center point, and you might have to adjust your view on the screen. So that should be 30mm. I'm going to press return to confirm. Now you'll notice that the buttons that we have drawn so far are almost correct, but we need to join these two circles here. So the way to do that is to take the line tool. I'm just going to check that this is straight. So I'm going to take the line tool up here, and I'm going to join the left-hand side of these two circles and the right-hand side of these two circles. Now, if I was drawing this by pencil on paper, I would just rub out these two semicircles here. So we're going to use the trim tool, which can also be accessed by T as a shortcut. I'm going to click on trim, and I'm going to delete this part and this part. Now, if your whole circle highlights, that means that one of your lines that you drew is not connecting up to the circle. So hopefully it will allow you to trim this part and this part. So now our drawing is complete. We're going to go up to Finish Sketch, and we're going to use Extrude. So we can either create and extrude, we can hit the letter E, or we can use the extrude icon here. So I'm going to choose to extrude each button by 0.2 and press return, and I can now see that the buttons have been raised. Now, to finish off the buttons, I think that we should add a slight fillet to the edges. So this time I can press modify and fillet, or you can see the F. So I'm going to click away, and I'm just going to press F on the keyboard. You can see that it opens the fillet box. So I'm going to choose each of the top edges, and if it doesn't select the full shape, select the rest. I don't need to hold shift this time because this command box is already open. So it's asking me which edges I'm selecting. Now, because I raised it by 0.2 of a mil, I need my fillet to be less than that. So I'm going to go for 0.1. I'm going to press enter, and you'll see if I zoom in, we've got that slight filleted edge on there. So that's how to add the buttons initially. I'm going to return to my home view, and I'm going to press save. Now, it will ask you whether you need the description to just be the user saved. You can name this stage. So in this case, I'm just going to call it buttons and press OK.